Hi there, welcome to the fourth session of Growing Wellbeing. It's Lucy Clark from Mind Food, and this session is going to be about food that's good for your mood. So as you might expect at Mind Food, we do love our food, and I guess we're probably more mindful than most when it comes to thinking about what we eat. And I think that's almost by default really, because people come to us because they're already inquisitive about where their food comes from and want to know how to grow their own. You'll notice that I'm saying that we're mindful eaters, but we're not necessarily the healthiest of eaters. Yeah, we don't do prescriptive, we don't really do judgy, we're all human. And mindful eating is more than just about an appreciation of textures and flavours and aromas, although clearly that's a very important part of it for us. It's also about noticing and understanding how different foods affect you. Whether or not you decide to act on that information is entirely up to you. So if you're sitting here watching us with a cup of coffee in one hand and a biscuit in the other, then enjoy. It's really, a little of what you fancy does you good. So as you might expect at Mind Food, it's all about finding balance, a balance that works for you. It's all about the long game. So this session is about looking at how we can nourish our brains, and I guess it's mind food, and really trying to see, hence the t-shirt by the way, it's about seeing what we can give our brains to help them thrive, and a good place to start is to think about the building blocks of our brain and how we can use this information to help ourselves. So the number one ingredient in your brain is water. So that's a little clue to staying super hydrated. There's a recommendation of drinking about 2 litres a day, but actually it's probably just as much about noticing what activities are dehydrating, and there might also be foods like salty foods that also dehydrate, so keep an eye out for those. And to drink a bit of water through the day. If you're not a natural water drinker, it's usually a good idea to have a bottle that you work your way through during the day. Otherwise, it can be really easy just to forget. So that's all about water. Then the second ingredient, your second biggest ingredient, is actually fat. So I love my fat. I love fat. So yeah, I don't love my own fat, but anyway. So fat. So omega-3. So it's really important to get the good fats on board. So that would be about the good fats in oily fish. But if you're vegetarian, you can find them in lots of vegetable oils, olive oil, rapeseed oil, avocado, nuts, seeds. But actually, surprisingly, I think there are vegetables that are pretty rich in omega-3 too. So maybe your dark greens like kale and chard and spinach and sprouts, amazingly. So then the third building block for your brain is protein. And to get lots of protein on board, you don't have to eat meat. You can be eating loads of pulses or peas or beans or tofu. And these are all very rich in amino acids. So essential amino acids are your vitamins, and they're like the building blocks for proteins. And generally vitamin B, types of vitamin B are very good for your brain. I couldn't go into all of them now, there are really so many, but certainly worth a bit of research. And then we need to find something that's going to do a kind of mopping up job on all the waste byproducts of all that busy thinking. So that's actually called oxidative stress. And what we need for that is a load of antioxidants. So that's going to be about eating lots of veg, lots of fruit. The easiest thing to do is eat a rainbow. Because by eating lots of different types of veg and making sure that you're getting as much variety as possible, you don't actually need to know the nitty-gritty of how every single veg works. The next thing we have to think about is energy for your brain, for your thinking processes, and that's where it comes down to subject of carbs. Quite a contentious one generally, and we won't go into that here. But generally, because all of your energy is prioritised for your brain first, it means that if you're eating very sweet foods or very fast carbs, they're basically just going straight to your head. So if you're already a busy thinker, you're actually providing some rocket fuel for even more busy thinking. So it's definitely worth keeping your mind on that. And kind of pacing your sugar intakes, and that's where things like low GI foods are really useful, because they release sugars very slowly. So things like sweet potatoes, they may taste sweet, but actually they release their sugars really, really slowly. And I guess what we're trying to do is not run our motors too fast. And in that vein, things like caffeine can be super unhelpful. Yes, they are. Caffeine drinks are very stimulating, but they can often be followed by quite a slump. And ditto with alcohol. Another, well, it's a very, very fast sugar source, but comes with a depressive aftermath. So, and that's really it for your first brain. But actually, in recent years, there's been quite a lot of research about your second brain. So we've actually got two brains to look after, and that's because your gut is your second brain. And what they found out is that serotonin, which is like your feel-good hormone, is actually made in your gut and sent to your brain, and not the other way around. So what we're really saying there is that when your gut is happy, then you'll feel better too. And by the same token, if you have a food intolerance, you may find that you feel more stressed, depressed or anxious than you need to, and that really needs checking out by a professional. You can look at things like elimination diets yourself, but you have to be pretty strict, and actually it's much better to get to the bottom of it properly, rather than just I don't know, tinker around the edges really. So, happy bacteria, well, happy gut. How do you have a happy gut? Well, I guess it's all about the bacteria, the good bacteria that you've probably heard of already. Did you know, though, that there are more bacteria in your gut than human cells in your whole body? So that's a huge number. We're effectively more bacteria than human. So it's worth having a think about how we can keep those bacteria happy and get as many of the good bacteria into our gut as possible. Well, the good news is that you will encourage and promote a lot of good bacteria by eating lots of fruit and veg, and eating pulses, unprocessed food, whole grains. But you can also give your good bacteria a boost by eating naturally fermented foods. So that might be kimchi or sauerkraut, and fermented vegetables. It could be about raw vinegars like cider vinegar. It could also be about eating yogurt or kefir, are very good sources of good bacteria. So yeah, I'm just conscious there is tons to take on board. So I would say here it's just a starting point really. You can't do everything all at once. The key is really noticing how different foods make you feel, and taking a minute to consider whether they're making life easier or harder. So I hope that helps, and if you like this session, as ever, if you could like us, love us, follow us wherever you find us, and if you could share with anybody you feel that might benefit, that would be brilliant. Thanks so much. Bye.